Hello and welcome to the Healthtech Marketing Show. I'm your host, Turinas, CEO of Health Launchpad. Health Launchpad is one of the sponsors of this podcast. And I also want to give a big thank you to our other sponsor, the awesome folks from HIMSS, who've been longtime supporters of a lot of the educational stuff that we do. Hey, this is the first Healthtech Marketing Show live, and I think I'm going to try doing this a lot going forward. And so I don't know who's watching out there. If you are, maybe put something in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. So today's show is something I'm very passionate about, and that's the buyer journey. It's a really foundational piece of any good solid B2B strategy. As a firm, we put a lot of work into it. I've got to bring a guest on today who is somebody who is probably even more passionate about the buyer journey than I am, and that is my great friend Mike Campana. Mike, welcome to the show. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good. So Mike and I got to know each other through a group we run called the Healthtech Marketing Network, which you can find out about on healthlaunchpad.com. And Mike and I have many things in common. Buyer journey, which we'll get onto, but the other thing we have in common is we are both fans of what, Mike?
Premier League soccer, buddy.
Oh, move your head a bit. Move your head to the right. Move your head so people. Yeah. So I almost cancelled today's show because Mike is a big fan of Liverpool Football Club. I'm a big fan of Chelsea. You know, we are among the top teams in the world, and I think Mike and I could probably spend the next hour talking about Premier League, in which case most people would then tune out. So we will shift on to today's show. So, Mike, tell us about yourself. Tell us about you. A little bit about your history and why are you so passionate about the buyer journey?
Yeah, I mean, I have been in healthcare information technology marketing for over 30 years now. Actually, I started off in sales. Yeah, I carried a bag for many years, which I think has a great benefit from a marketing perspective, because Absolutely. I think most marketing people aren't in sales or haven't been in sales. So they don't have as much empathy for what a salesperson goes through as they're trying to, express a message or, sell a product without really understanding the value proposition. So I have a lot of empathy for the sales team. But 34 years in sales, I started out really focusing on ambulatory technology, but I've grown my career into, mostly the acute care in most recent years, and healthcare payer, pharmaceutical, life sciences, running marketing teams, everything from small startups where I was individual contributor but leading the team of one to running marketing for large international marketing groups with large teams of people doing marketing. So
that's fantastic. I mean, you've got a really storied background. So. Yeah. The buyer journey. Why is the buyer journey so important? I mean, it seems like an obvious question, but I think a lot of people kind of gloss over it.
They do, and I went through back in like the mid 20-teens. My company that I worked for at the time, a large company, was introduced to buyer journey mapping from a company called Serious Decisions, which I think a lot of people.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And that was great. It was a great exercise. But I mean, they're really, I think, a lot more than what's needed. I started studying a person who works at PricewaterhouseCoopers named Antonia Wade, who does a great study on buyer journey mapping. I really subscribe to her. But
I think I've got her book somewhere.
Yeah, well, everything that I present, I talk about is really based on what Antonia Wade has taught me. I mean, I love her concept, the way she does things, and that's kind of how I approach buyer journey mapping is through hers. But I think the biggest problem and the reason buyer journey mapping is important is because I think most companies they look at a funnel. They use a funnel. So, and the funnel has a lot of flaws, but the funnel is a great mental model to use when you're focusing on opportunities and how opportunities move from one stage to the next stage. But the flaws that exist in the funnel are that it forces you as a marketer, not to say force, but encourages you as a marketer to really focus on how you want to sell and not really how the buyer wants to buy.
Right.
It also looks at as a single buyer. So you're looking at it from a domain perspective. I'm trying to sell somebody to XYZ hospital, rather looking at the personas within the hospital and how they're participating in that process. So
I so agree with you. I mean, I think the kind of traditional marketing model, which is, B2C, awareness, interest, decision, action, works really well if you're even in sort of in sort of the Soho small business B2B for more transactional purchases, but where you've got sales cycles that are 13 plus months long, which is what according to study HIMSS did late last year is how long the buyer journey is. And the average number of people in a buyer collective, I think, is 6. A quarter of groups have a buyer group of more than 10. That just AIDA is not that helpful.
Right.
So, I mean,
it also causes friction. I think it also causes friction with this. You talk to a lot of people in marketing, and you ask them what the relationship is with sales.
Yeah,
and it's not great typically, and it's because of the funnel, really. Because at the top of the funnel, usually it's like the marketing responsibility, and then it gets down to lower in the funnel when you get to the SQL range of the funnel, and it becomes more of the sales responsibility, and marketing kind of pulls out, where we should both be involved in both sides. But because it's not, you have that friction, and sales looks at marketing as, you guys are wasting so much money at the top of the funnel. And we look at sales like, you don't appreciate what we've done at the bottom of the funnel, So
right.
I think it causes that friction.
Do you think that it's become, more of a necessity today? Is it more important than ever, or is it just kind of like it's always been something that you should be doing?
Well, I think it's more important than ever that you do it. I mean, the way people are making their buying decisions is changing. So they're like you said, there's more people involved in the buying decision, and each of those people have unique needs. They have unique challenges. They have unique drivers. They have unique ways that they like to consume information. They have unique ways, places, their watering holes that they consume the information is very different. So you have to understand all those personas. And it's really important that you do persona mapping as part of this exercise. Persona mapping, actually, everything you do in marketing should start at persona mapping. You need to understand who you're selling to.
So we're going to get into the buyer stages in a minute, but let's just do a little detour about persona mapping, because I think there's some debate. It's interesting. One of the books which I absolutely love is They Ask You Answer, which is the Marcus Sheridan book about his journey into inbound, how he basically became essentially one of the evangelists of inbound marketing. And his point of view is you need to understand the buyer journey, but he doesn't actually believe in personas. Tell us a bit about why you're so passionate about them.
Well, I mean, personas are going to inform you on a lot of things. First of all, you're going to look at all the roles that are involved in the decision-making process, everything from the C-suite down to the individual users. And you're going to understand what is their role within that organization. What is their overarching role? And then in their role, what are the challenges that they face every day? What are the needs that they're trying to solve for? What are the, what are the desires that they have, the care about? What do they care about in their organization? Those are important to understand everything that those people are going through. The other part of it is you learn a little bit more about what their role is in the buying process, what indicators they're looking at, and how they are going to consume and grow information. But most importantly for me is you really understand the watering holes for those people. Where a CIO consumes information is very different than a department head where they're consuming information, how they consume information.
Interesting.
The type of information that they want to consume, where they get it. The CIO does not necessarily care about your opinion as a vendor. They care about the opinion of an analyst, and you're going to learn that from doing buyer journey mapping. They're looking at the horizon, and we'll get into this in the stages of the buyer journey map, but they're looking at that horizon, and they're looking for information that they are, affecting their roles, or that they're going to have to be concerned about down the road. And that's where the whole buyer journey starts.
I love this notion of watering holes. That's right.
Yeah.
I do have this picture of wildebeest around the world, which is less favorable, but I do. It's a great metaphor. All right, so let's get into the buyer journey. So tell us about, what are the stages that you focus on when you're building a buyer journey?
Well, it's important also to know that this is not a linear thing. This is a cyclical thing, because you're going to start at what we call the horizon scanner. This is Antonio Wade's big thing, the horizon scanner. But as you go down in through the framework of the buyer journey, you're going to end up at a client, and that client is now, again, a horizon scanner. So it's important to look at it from that perspective. It's not linear, it's cyclical. Right. So you're really starting at the horizon scanner. This is going to be your C-suite person. There's a very strategic roles within each department. So they're looking out there, they're assessing the market trends out there. They're looking at innovations that's going to help their business grow. Typically, the horizon scanner is the first person that a company is going to notice from the vendor perspective. It's the first person we notice out in the market. And that's usually going to be the marketing person too. If you're doing ABM kind of stuff, you're noticing that horizon scanner because you're getting those indicators through your technology stack.
Well, I tell you, so just a sort of observation on this is that, going back to your original point, which is it's not linear. It's not kind of like, it's not as logical and as linear as it might be depicted. What I like about the notion of like a horizon scanner is that, as you said, it's not it's not a stage, it's a state. And so, what you're looking for is who are people who are in that state, and it changes the way you market. So I'd not really heard that. I'd heard it a while back, but I hadn't really embraced it, and I really like that. Sorry, carry on. So keep going.
Yeah. So and those people, here's an important thing to know about them as they're in that horizon stage. They don't care about you as a vendor. They're not looking for answers from you. They're not looking for a sales message. They're looking for your ideas. They don't care anything about you. They're looking for opinions. They're looking to have discussions. They're looking for insights and trends and data points, right? And where are they getting that from? They're not getting that from you. They don't care what you have to say. They're looking at it from, their analysts. They're looking at their peers in other organizations. They're going to trade shows and learning. I as a CIO care about my technology stack and how that technology stack integrates with each other. And now I'm at a trade show and I'm learning, there's a new widget on Meaningful Use version 722 that requires lock-in mirror caps. Am I ready for that? I mean, those are the questions he's asking, So that's the first stage of the buyer journey, is that horizon scanner. And once he realizes, as he goes to a trade show and realizes a new version of Meaningful Use requires lock-in mirror caps, he's going to talk to the people under him about this. Hey, are you aware of this? We should look into this a little bit more. So, if you're the CIO, you're talking to your VP of IT or something like that, and you're going to start exploring. This is the explore stage, and this is typically going to involve more of a buying team. It may just be the CIO and the VP of IT. It may be something that affects HIM. They're going to bring in the leader of HIM, or it's going to affect patient access. It may affect some other department. So they're going to take those leadership from the department and say, hey, did you know that lock and mirror caps are going to be required? Because I just learned about that in this trade show. So they're going to start talking locking mirror caps. I love it.
I don't know what locking mirror caps. I'm going to have to go look those up.
It's a made up thing. I don't think it exists. But they know that there's a problem, and that problem's going to have to be solved at some high level. And they're trying to find a point of view, and what outcomes they need to achieve when that becomes a requirement. So, and they're prioritizing whether or not they need to act on this, or do I need outside help? Maybe they're going to get in touch with Gartner or somebody or some other consulting firm and get some advice on it. So, what is the information that Explorer is looking for? So they're looking for, again, they're looking for opinions and options from those, analysts and those journalists and those peers of theirs. What are case details that they may be looking? So they may want to build a case, so they need calculators to build that case.
Yep.
We're looking at case studies. Who else is working on this, or maybe what vendors has solved this problem? Let's find some case studies on this. But mostly it's industry points of view. So, but once we're done with the explore stage, once they realize, yeah, we got an issue, then they start looking for solutions. This is what we call the hunter stage. This is the third of the 5 stages, the hunter stage.
Yeah.
So the hunters, they know that we know now we need a solution that provides us these locked-in mirror caps that's gonna, have great integration with all the rest of our technology stack. They know what the business challenges are. They know what they're trying to solve. They know the problem is well defined for them. The requirements that they have for their technology stack are very clear for them. They have a high probability that a similar product has been purchased in the past. And they want to know more about that. So, they're going to go out there. They're going to start familiarizing themselves with solutions. What is the landscape out there for the solutions? They're going to start comparing and contrasting options. So that's what they're looking for. So the information that they're going to be looking for, they're looking for detailed information, looking for proof points, and looking at case studies. Those are the things that they really care about.
That's so interesting. The way that you're describing it, I really love the personification of the state. When we do, as a company, we do buyer journeys all the time. It's part of how we do an ABM strategy. It's absolutely central to it. But the way we look at it is just like, well, problem definition, solution definition, and then decisioning. And I like the way that you, first of all, I want to add in the notion of the horizon scanner, because it's kind of like the pre-sale, it precedes a decision to go ahead and actually start a purchase, which I think is interesting. Just as an observation, I don't know if have you ever heard of a book called The Challenger Customer? Written by the guys who wrote The Challenger Sale. So it's not, the Challenger Sale is like, one of the best known books in sales strategy, but The Challenger Customer was a follow-up, which isn't as well known. I like it even better. As a marketer, it's a great book. They did a study of buying groups, and what they found was that buying groups find it challenging to define the problem. They find it really challenging. Where they actually have the biggest conflict is in solution definition. So, first of all, it's like, well, let's agree we've got this problem and it's a priority. All right, I don't know, is it as big a problem as this? I don't agree. Okay, all right, well, we should probably move ahead and think about ways to solve this. Then it's all over the place, because some people say, well, we can build it in-house. Other people say, no, we've got to work with a consulting firm. What are you talking about? There's software out there. So that's where they actually need the most help. Actually, when they've decided to move ahead and they're picking a vendor, that's actually really easy. It needs the least help.
And I think the challenge from a vendor perspective, from the marketing, is they're going through that, right?
Yeah.
But the challenge is who's involved in that within your target market. Who is sitting at that table? In the horizon scanner whose that is. You probably know in the explorer stage, it's going to be that horizon scanner plus the people under him from other departments. But then you start moving down, and it becomes a lot more robust, right? When you get into that hunter stage, the third stage, the horizon scanner is basically out of the picture. He'll come back in the picture when it comes time to buy.
Oh, yeah, right? Interesting.
He's not in the picture anymore. He's done his job as a strategist. So we've identified the problem. I'm turning it over to the people that really understand the challenges within my organization to come up with solutions for it, right? So now you're in the hunter stage. You're involving all the users that are going to be part of it. They're that they're going to have to use that technology. You're involving procurement. You're involving IT people who have to work on that seamless integration of those solutions.
Yep.
Your security and compliance people to make sure that you're not putting data exposure risks out there. You have all kinds of legal, regulatory people that may be involved. It all depends on the solution you're selling and who you're selling it to is what's involved. But the challenge for marketing is knowing who is at that table. And that's where persona mapping comes into play. Because in a persona map, you understand all the personas that exist in the hospital that touch your solution and what they care about, what your message is to that person based on what they care about. And you can look at the hunter level for some solution and guess who's at that table. And now I know who I have to market to.
Got it. And it just, do you have any examples of frameworks that you've used? We have a framework that we've developed. I'm just curious to know sort of, what type of frameworks you use when you do persona mapping. I developed my own framework when I did persona media. So I went through, that was part of the Serious Decisions training that we did. Yeah.
I've read a bunch of books on persona mapping. I've got several books. There's one called the Buyer Persona, which they have another version of that coming out, I heard. But I developed my own. It doesn't go as deep as Serious Decisions. I think Serious Decisions, they're great, but I mean, they're a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to know all that. I mean, I actually, for this presentation, I pulled out one of the ones I did when I was at Healthcare Triangle. This is a CIO one. It's a simple, right?
Yeah.
You see that? So it goes over, who's in the hospital. I mean, what the role is of that person in the hospital. It goes over a summary of all the care abouts that you have for that person. So a CIO cares about technology strategy, ensuring seamless integration, data management, yada, yada, yada. Then what is his buying behavior? What are his decision drivers? What are his roles in this process? I summarize that out. And then what are his content preferences? Where does he interact with content? And what are the watering holes that he goes to? Watering holes being, for me, the most important thing. A CIO is going to be part in the healthcare environment is probably going to be a member of Chime. That's a great watering hole for him. So when I create content, I need it to appear in the Chime world, right?
Yeah.
That's a great example of persona mapping. And I do that for everyone in the hospital. Then the other side of it, which really, I don't want to get too much into the weeds on this call, but there's a messaging framework that sits in the middle of all that, right? So you have a product, that product solves a problem. So if the CIO cares about data integration, seamless data integration, you should be able to write a messaging framework on data integration, how your solution provides seamless data integration, right? And that's going to inform everything that you do when you create content for the buyer journey.
So got it. So what you're doing is you're creating almost like a matrix, right? Where you've got your persona mapping, which is sort of like, this is who they are. And then the buyer journey is that what are at each one of those stages, what are the issues that they have?
And the information they need at that moment.
And the information they need. And then, where do they go for that? As you say, the watering holes. One of the techniques that we use is, triggers. So particularly when you get to your horizon scanner and what we call a problem solver. But what was it you called the next stage? Explorer, right? The explorer stage is what was it that triggered that purchase to get going? And from a messaging and content standpoint, that's particularly important, right? Because you want to know, what are the triggers? Is it like they're moving to Epic, or is it that their HCAP scores have suddenly tanked? They're going through a merger or consolidation. Whatever it is what are those triggers? And then the other thing is that, and this we borrow heavily from the They Ask You Answer framework, which is at each stage, what are the questions that the buying group is asking? What are they looking for? And so that's kind of how we design our journey maps. Anything else? Any other kind of tips and tricks on what if a marketer's out there is in the process of developing their buyer journey map, what any other tips and tricks on things they should be thinking about?
You have other parts of the buyer stage that you need to be concerned about, but the main thing that you want to do is you want to make sure as you're building your buyer journey map that you're not doing that in a vacuum, right? You want to make sure that sales is on board. You're basically creating a new kind of relationship with the sales organization. There's that friction that exists in the funnel world, but you include sales. You get socialize this plan with sales and executive sponsor leadership. You socialize it with them, you include them in the process, and you get their buy-in. And what you're going to end up with is, I think, a much better relationship with sales, but you're also going to be solving another problem that exists with the funnel, and that is how marketing is judged, right? Marketing in a funnel world, in almost every organization you go to, marketing is judged on how many leads am I bringing in? What is the conversion rate of those leads to an MQL to an SQL? What is the opportunity contribution that marketing is making to the sales of the company? That's how and they should be judged on that, right? I'm not saying they should be judged, but we all know that marketing is doing a lot more than that. Yeah. The buyer framework, when you get buy-in from sales and sponsorship, they get a better, deeper understanding of the contribution marketing makes aside from the funnel. We do so much more that contributes to the funnel that has nothing to do with the funnel, right? So This is a good way of doing that.
Yeah, curious. I mean, can you translate that into different metrics that become important in that? How do you get alignment on the metrics?
Yeah, so we think about metrics as input, indicator, and outcome metrics. So there's three kinds of metrics that exist. An input metric is going to be, it's going to measure the productivity of the marketing team, basically. How productive were we in marketing? Indicator metric says, okay, so marketing was productive, but is marketing hitting the mark with the content they're creating? Is it hitting the right place? And then the outcome metrics is going to be how well marketing performed compared to the business strategy and the marketing strategy that's set forth, right? So each one of those parts of the buyer journey, which starts at Horizon Scanner, goes to Explorer, then goes into the Hunter, and then you have the active buyer, and that becomes a client. Each one of those is going to have unique input metrics, indicator metrics, and outcome metrics. For example, in the Horizon Scanner, remember that the Horizon Scanner doesn't want to hear from you, right? They're not looking for a conversation with your organization sales. They're looking for conversations with other organizations. So your input metrics is going to be, as a vendor, how many conversations do I have with journalists? How many articles am I putting out there? How many blogs am I putting out there? How many points of views am I creating that are being consumed by analysts, by journalists, by influencers, by healthcare futurists? How much am I spending on thought leadership promotion? Those are your input metrics at the Hunter stage. Your indicator metrics are going to be, how many social mentions am I getting? How many likes and shares do I have of that content from those analysts? How many people are taking part in surveys that I'm putting together? Or how many follow-up interviews am I having? How many interactions am I having with named influencers? Are they reading my content? Are they downloading my content? How much time are they spending it? This is a great use of one-to-many ABM, by the way, because you're going to get a lot of these metrics on. And then from an outcome perspective, a great outcome in a Hunter stage is my brand profile. How am I raising my brand profile? You can measure that by, articles featuring my thought leadership or my SMEs in my organizations. How many articles are quoting them or referencing that content that I'm creating? Am I getting any kind of mentions in target publications? What is my media share of voice, basically? How many people in my target audience are engaging with my content? And the target audience, again, is not the hunter. It is the journalists, the analysts, that kind of people. So, you're measuring your engagement there. Now, when you move into the Explorer stage, you're doing a lot of the same things you do in the hunter stage. I mean, you've got to create, because they care about opinion. So you're creating a lot of opinion pieces, articles and blogs and third-party publication placed articles that you're doing. Keynote speaking opportunities or panel slots. Those are your input metrics. Your output metrics are going to be, again, am I raising my brand profile, but how many attendees are attending my events that I'm going to, how many face-to-face engagements and touch points am I having? And then your indicator metrics are going to be, a lot of the same things with your media and social media mentions and likes and shares. And it's important to understand you have to have the MarTech stack in place for this to understand these metrics. But, how's my content performing? You're going to get a lot of information from your ABM platform if you're using ABM on how well your content is performing. Is there a lot of organic search that's happening? My SEO and SEM stuff, you're getting metrics from your analytics on that. The email open rates, things like that. Those are your indicator metrics on how well you're doing at the Explorer stage. Then you get into the hunter stage, and this is where you start really hitting the funnel kind of metrics, right? Your outcomes, just in general, in the hunter stage, are going to be things like your new contracts, your leads, your unweighted pipeline, your conversion rates you're getting from going from MQL to SAL to SQL down the funnel, your win rates, things like that. From an input, you're looking at, what are my proof points am I creating? How many case studies am I doing? What are decision-making aids that I'm making? And decision-making aids be things like benchmark tools or calculators or competitor tables or collateral that features and benefits. Those are your good decision-making aids that you're creating for the people that are making, in the hunter stage or making their decisions. What events am I doing? Trade shows, road shows, roundtables. These are all metrics that you should be tracking from the input perspective. From an indicator, engagement in my case studies, organic search, email open rates, things like that. Those are standard things that marketing does. It's marketing 101. Because I think most people in marketing that look at the funnel, that hunter stage is what they're most familiar with. It's just in the funnel, right? It's the bread and butter of marketing. Then you get to the active buyer stage, and your input metrics are going to be number of bids supported. And it's important to understand the active buyer stage in the funnel view is typically where marketing stops. Most companies stop the marketing department there, and this is sales response. They think of this as sales responsibility. But the reason it's important to involve sales in this buyer journey mapping is because you become part of what is traditionally their role. You're helping support their bids. You're creating pieces of collateral that help them in their sales efforts. You're creating videos and demos, working on their demos for them. All the SDR stuff that happens, doing virtual office tours or helping with their pitch decks, things like that. All that sales enablement stuff. You become part of that, and you're now going to be measured on these things, which you're doing anyhow, but traditionally you're not measured because you're measured on leads and revenue. Now you're going to be measured on what is my contribution to the input metrics that help you sell, Mr. Salesman. Then your indicators are going to be things like, who's engaging with my collateral, the amount of time they spent on it, feedback from the purchase process, feedback from sales, feedback from the client. Those are all things that you're going to get from an input, and your output's going to be, or your outcome is going to be, my close win rate, my, reduced length of time, maybe in the funnel, things like that. Those are things that are good outcome metrics from the active buyer stage. And then you get into what marketing rarely gets involved in, and I think they should be more involved in, is when someone becomes a client. You need to be able to, and this is great if you do one-to-one ABM, especially if you do things like microsites, which I'm a big proponent of doing microsites. But you can create videos, you can create webinars, you can do new client onboarding assets, you can do one-to-one ABM programs that you put together, custom messaging on thought leadership events and briefings that they can contribute to, clients can contribute to. Client advisory boards, things like that you can create. And then from an indicator, how many case studies am I getting out of those clients? Are they attending events with me? Are they helping me with some positive media or social media mentions? Do we have a number of touch points that we're hitting with them on? At the end of the day, those clients are going to become horizon scanners again. So they need to know all the things that you sell to get a greater share of wallet. So, they may have engaged me because they want that lock-in mirror cap, But we also have a ransomware division, and they may be facing ransomware issues, or maybe a new study comes on ransomware. And when they become a Horizon scanner, in the background, they know that this company I just bought my lock and mirror accounts from, they also do a great job because they've been promoting all their ransomware stuff. They do a great job with that.
Wow. That was fascinating and really well described. What I love about it is the way that you map the inputs, the tactics that you use along the journey, and making sure that you're doing enough of the right things at the right time. Also, very interesting the way that you define the role of PR for the Horizon scanners. Very good. And then having metrics along the way. I think it's one of it's one of the best descriptions, I think, of how to use the buyer journey that I've heard. Really, really useful. And I'm going to, for anyone listening who wants to, frantically taking notes, I'm going to basically capture that in a blog post that will accompany this, because I thought that was just incredibly useful. All right. So we need to wrap things up now here. But for any marketer looking to improve or get started or improve the way they're doing buyer journey, what's one piece of advice for them?
Well, I gave two pieces of advice. One is make sure you involve sales in that process, and probably executive leadership, but sales really, because you want to have a new relationship with sales. But the other thing I would advise you on is, as you go through the process of building a buyer journey map, make sure that your MarTech stack is really aligned to that journey, because a MarTech stack typically is aligned to a funnel view, and it should be. But depending on what you're using for CRM and marketing automation, you should be able to manipulate that so that it addresses things like the Horizon scanners and your hunters and your active buyers. You need to have that built into that MarTech stack, and make sure you have the right marketing operations crew on board too.
Yep.
If you know you have to create a lot more collateral now because you're identifying gaps in collateral, if you know you're going to have the gaps in collateral, make sure you have the resources to fill that gap.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. I knew you had a lot to share about the buyer journey, and you really didn't disappoint. So I'm so grateful to you for making the time today and to be, just so transparent in your process. Very, very useful. I've learned a lot, and I've something I've studied. So thank you to you out there for listening, for watching. Not sure how many people are actually watching this live. And thank you also to our partners at HIMS for your support with this podcast. So if you want to subscribe to this, you can find it on YouTube. You can also find us on any of the podcast applications, Spotify, Apple, all of them. And as I said, we'll also have a short blog post which will summarize a lot of what Mike described today, and there'll be a link down at the bottom at the show notes. So with that, I'm going to wrap things up, and again, thank Mike for helping me out today, and see you next week for the next show.